Triple Diamond Deluxe, Dexter Yager.
Thank you. Ain't it great? I want to tell you, it's great to be here tonight, and I want to tell you, today's the first day of the rest of your life. Now, I don't know where you are in your life. Doesn't make any difference. The only thing that counts is where you want to go. You know, Bertie and I started in the business November 1st, 1964. That's 16 years ago. But you know, it's gone by like that. You've been on a job 16 years. Has it gone by like that? And the next 16 years won't go by like that either. I want to tell you, I don't care if you're 50 years old, you got 16 more years to work for somebody. Why don't you work first class for yourself? If you're 60 years old, you might end up working 16 years for somebody else. But in 10 years, it's amazing what you can do. In 5 years, it's amazing what it's taken us 16 years to do. We were just out with one of our downline. He's been in the business 37 months and just made triple diamond. But it's because he's had a pattern to follow. And that's something that's so vital. We got into business. We didn't have any pattern. Nobody told us what to do. The only thing that we were told, go have some meetings, go talk to somebody. That's the only thing that we were told. From there on in, we had to learn by ourselves. We didn't have anybody telling us the wealth that could be there. We got in this business, and I think that's very important to stop and understand why there's certain reasons why we tell people to do certain things. I tell people when I sponsor them, if you do exactly what I tell you to do, I guarantee you whatever you want if you'll follow instructions. But if you don't do what I tell you, I can't guarantee you anything. Because the plan works if you work the plan. But if you don't follow instructions the way that I know it works, you may get off into an area that is harder to work and it'll take longer. The simple thing, when we were approached first time about the business, a guy was selling us the products. Lived down the street. We lived on 316 Cortland Ave, Rome, New York. It's an alley. It's no place. And we had a lot of dreams when we were married. I had a lot of dreams when I was a kid. I remember back when I worked at Sears Roebuck, making $50 a week plus 1% commission. 1% commission. How'd you like to make 1% commission? You sell a lawnmower, which is a big item, for $69, you made 69 cents. You sell a DeWalt saw, it used to be $239, you made $2.39. You work all day on the sale. Of course, you sell 5 cents worth of nuts and bolts. You got a ring on the cash register. Takes a lot of those nuts and bolts to get up to $1 to make a penny. But you know, the name of the game was being out there where the action was. I used to count. I think it's so important that you goal set. I've goal set all my life and didn't even know I was doing it. When I worked at Sears Roebuck, I used to try to check all the cash registers every day and make sure that I had more rings on the cash register than anybody. I didn't know who did the most dollar volume, but I wanted to have more rings on the cash register than anybody else in the whole store. That was important. We used to have a key. Each one of us had a key on the register. And so I'd check all the registers in the store to make sure I had the most rings. It's amazing. Some days I'd have 109, 83, 47, whatever. But I wanted to have the most rings on the cash register. And I didn't even understand what I was doing. But exposure is the name of the game. The more that you're out there, the more that it happens. I hear people say, well, I talked to 4 or 5 people and they didn't get in. Man, if I got 109 rings in a day, I must have had 109 other people say no, or 209 say, just shopping, just looking. See, a lot of people are just shopping in life. They're just looking in life. I remember when I was making $50 a week, though, I used to go on my coffee break and I'd sit down 15 minutes down in the little employee area down there, and I'd grab myself a Coke. I might lean back and relax and close my eyes, and I dreamed the wildest dream I could ever dream. And you know what the wildest dream I could ever dream is? Someday I might make $500 a week. That was wild, unbelievable. $26,000 a year. The wildest I could ever dream. You know what's really amazing about that? My son Doyle is my general manager of my total business operations, handles all the little things in my business, and I pay him just exactly that. He's 21 years old today. Now, you think about that. At that point, I couldn't dream any bigger than that, and today, I pay a 21-year-old kid that to do my odd jobs. Think about that. See? Couldn't believe I could achieve that level. And now I have an employee that I pay that much to. Sure, inflation set in. But you know, you look through life. I remember when I went to high school, and I was probably a lot like some of you. You know, I was very shy, but if I wanted something, I went after it. I just didn't always know how to get everything that I wanted. But if I'd set a goal, I'd go after it. And it's learning to set little goals that makes a difference. I remember a little thing that I did when I was working at Sears. I wanted a car. I went out and saved my money for years to buy my first car, and then my second car, and my third car. They're all clunkers. But then I wanted to buy a 2-year-old car, and I financed it. And I financed it for a couple years. But I used to put my whole paycheck in my checking account so that I would record. First time I ever had a checking account, so that I would record exactly what I was spending my money for. And so I could pay for it early. I wanted to get it out of the way. Little things, goal setting. Got so that I didn't know I reached for the payments. But you know, I tried to make 2 payments a month. And I did. Cut it off in half the time. See, little goal setting. Nobody ever told me goal setting. I didn't know what I was doing. Now I learned the terms, and many of the things I did all my life were goal setting. But I didn't have a vehicle to get my goals with. If you're only making $50 a week, or like when we got in the business making $95 a week, you know, when I was working for West End Miles and Time, we get so many miles on those cars, and we had it so long that automatically we got a new car. Had to be a minimum of 3 years. And you know, I used to sit down, I figured out how many miles I drove a day, how many I drove a week, how many I drove a year, and to get there. And I divided it out, and every day when I'd get in that car, I'd say, I'm so many miles from a new car. And I'd subtract the miles. I'd say, I'm that far from a new car. Because the company car that I started out with was a Rambler, and I hated it. Now, it was my company car. I hated that Rambler. I wanted to get me a Ford. Now, may not have been much of a goal, but I knew I had to have X amount of miles on it. And rather than figure out, well, it's 6 months, it's 60, you know, or 8 months, or 12 months, or, 24, 36 months, I started taking the mileage. And I said, okay, this many more miles, I'm getting that much closer. Every time I had to put a set of tires on that car, I said, I'm that much closer. You know, when I first got into business and started growing with the business, and I'd sponsor somebody, I started watching my speedometer, then I'd go over and watch their speedometers. I knew the faster miles went on their cars, the faster that they'd make direct. So I checked people's speedometers. Doesn't sound like much. Sounds a little nutty, don't it? But don't make any difference. See, it was goal orientation for me. I had read a book. The first guy that approached me about Amway came selling us products. He lived on Cortland Ave with us. Sold us products. Bertie loved the products. There were 34 products at the time. He sold us LOC, SA8, and shoe spray. We were in love with the products. We told all of our friends about the products. He kept trying to approach us about the business. I said, no, I'm not interested in business. Say, I was reading ads in the newspaper every night for businesses. Everything was $50, $100, $75, $200,000. Man, I couldn't come up with $2,000. But I kept watching the ads. Someday there'd be a business in there for me. And he kept talking every time he'd come around about, I sponsored 10 people here. I've got this. I got a group in Utica. I got a group here. Got a group there. But, he never sat down and explained it to me. Never set up an appointment. He just kept making approaches about Amway. Well, I already knew what Amway was. We were buying the products and we liked them. But I could not picture myself being a Mickey Mouse door-to-door salesman. And that's what I thought he was. Now, because he lived down the street and he come knocking on our door and went knocking on the door next to us. It's what it represented. Now, we were buying the products, and because we were sold on the products, we were telling all of our friends and relatives about them, and we were buying them for them at retail and selling them to them retail. We were telling them all about Amway and getting them for them. Because anything that's good, I like to share. So I liked the products, Bertie liked the products, but we weren't interested in getting into business, and I was looking for a business opportunity. But he approached me wrong. Second guy, we went to visit my sister-in-law. She was in the hospital having a baby. It was her turn. And, her brother-in-law was there. And he talked to us about, Dexter, you ought to get in Amway. You'll make $1 million. I already know what Amway was. Make $1 million? Go door to door? You're nuts. And I put him down so much he quit. Now, it's what I tell people over and over, don't listen to stupid people. Isn't that right? He was making $1,000 a month. I was making $95 a week. He was making more than me, and he listened to me because I was in sales. Been in sales all my life. Well, as I graduated up to the job that I had when I got into business, I worked at Jewish clothing store back 65 cents an hour. I remember when we got that raise up to 65 cents an hour, minimum wage. I remember looking around and saying, hey, I want to be in business for myself. They all got company cars. I see that there's certain advantages to be in business for yourself. I want those advantages. I made that decision early in my life. I went to work on construction. I didn't know too much about it. My older brother knew a whole lot about it. He'd had a couple years of college. The only difference was I was willing to work hard and listen to what the boss said. He was willing to argue with the boss. Learned early in the business. I said, hey, the boss is the boss. Whether it's wrong or right, if he wants me to do it, I'm going to do it. If he tells me to go out and overload this truck and bring it back, it's his truck. My brother said, well, you can't put that much weight on that truck. He said, I want it put on the truck, I don't care. So I'd go out and bring the stuff back. I'd go out and do whatever he told me to do. If he said put this amount of water in the mortar, I'd mix the mortar that way. I didn't know how to mix the mortar. My brother knew all about it. He got fired. I got a paycheck raise. See, because that's something that's very, very... My brother did everything according to the book. Now, he was learning it in college by the book. Now, there's always circumstances that change. Like the college professors hadn't gone out and done that job. But this guy was doing it for a living. He was the boss, and I followed instructions. That's very simple to understand. If I didn't want to work for him, I better quit. But if I didn't do the job, somebody else was going to do it. And he knew what it took to get it done. That's something vital to understand. It's if he told me to carry two bundles of shingles up on the ladder on my shoulders, my brother might say, hey, you can't get them up there. I say, I'll figure a way to get them up there, It may be awful rough, but I'll get them up there, He said, well, that ladder's too high and you might fall off. I said, I'll climb it. He told me to do it, right? I didn't know. But I got raises and he got fired. It's real important. He was older than me. Now, I learned through a few of those things that, hey, the boss is the boss, period. He sets a pattern, and if I don't like working for him, I better quit. Now, when I was approached about Amway the third time, I learned something. Guy came over to our house, talked to Bertie in the afternoon. He said, boy, you guys would really do great in Amway. Bertie says, I can't sell. He says, you don't have to. Dexter knows what to do. And she said, well, Dexter wouldn't be interested in Amway. It's sort of like Avon, isn't it? He likes the products, but, he wouldn't be interested. He's got a good job. The guy said, look, for every person that you get in that becomes a direct, and she didn't even know what a direct meant, but he said you get a minimum of $225 a month for the rest of your life, every month. She said, well, two of them things, them direct things, would get me enough so I'd never have to have a job again. She said, okay, we'll go get a couple of them. And she set up an appointment for me to hear Amway that night. Now, I wasn't interested in hearing Amway, but the appointment had been set, and I came home from work, and there was a note on the table. Russ is coming to talk to you about Amway. Please listen. Love, Bertie. P.S. Gone to Mom's. I was mad. I didn't want to hear about Amway. But he came in, he was nervous, and he explained the plan. We lived in a shack. I was in the process of remodeling the kitchen. I didn't know what I was going to put in, but I had half it torn out. We bought an old house because it was what we could afford. I wanted to own something. I didn't want to pay rent. I bought it in a poor section of town where if I'd remodeled it totally, which I ended up doing and got it up to where I had a lot of money in it, it could never be worth as much as I'd have in it. But it didn't make any difference. It was the only thing I could afford to buy. We lived, when we got married, which was 23 years ago, 2 weeks ago, we lived on the third floor on River Street, an apartment, and they tore that down about 5 years after we moved out. It was a run-down rattle trap. I remember we used to have to buy a can of, I think it was Raid, every night to chase the cockroaches out of our apartment into the next guy's apartment. They never killed them. They were immune to it. But from there, we moved into a small house across the street from the Ford dealership where I was the next place that I took a job because they offered me more money than the $50 a week. I think I was offered $75 a week or something like that draw. And I could have a new car. And I said, hey, that's a savings, man. I don't have to buy a car. You know, little things made a big difference. But we moved across there, and I was on call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Then I wanted to have something of my own. The next step was we went out, and we bought a lot out in the country. Out in Lee Center off on Skinner Road. And I bought a used house trailer for $1,000, and we moved in that. That was 8 by 32, I think it was, 31, something like that. 1 bedroom. By that time, we had 2 or 3 kids. Don't tell me I don't know what it means to be poor. We were broke. But you know one thing, I never complained about being broke because I had a dream. But by the time that I was 1 month shy of 25 when I was shown the Amway business, I'd about lost the dream. I had listened to so many losers that I was starting to believe them. There's no hope, there's no chance, get a good, secure job, and I was looking for a good, secure job. Sears Roebuck, I saw that they weren't going to give me no raises. I remember when the first raise I was offered was the day I went in to quit. I quit. And I was smart enough to know that, you know, the boss first, when I quit, told me I was fired. I was through as of that night. Then he called me back in the office that day and said, hey, I'll give you a raise. I said, when I asked for the raise, you wouldn't give it to me. If the only way that I can get a raise is to quit, then I have to do this all my life until someday you accept the resignation when I can't afford to resign. That ain't no way for a raise. So I went to work for the Ford garage, worked my way up to assistant sales manager, and the owner died. I knew that big corporations like Sears Roebuck didn't care about a little employee like me. I knew that. And it's funny, all the guys were talking about, well, we got this fantastic profit sharing, all this, we're going to be rich when we get old. I see a lot of those guys. Sears profit sharing went, a lot of them are ready for retirement. They were as old as my dad, or close to it, when I went to work for that. They were projecting how wealthy they were going to be when they retired, because they weren't going to have anything while they were working there. But it was all built on the retirement program. A lot of them can't afford to retire today, because the money isn't there. And so I said, no way am I going to be involved with that large corporation that don't care. I said, I'm going to get with a business, a small independent business. Went to work for a Ford dealer. When he died, I learned most big guys that own a business are older than I am. When they die, it's all over for me if I'm an employee, unless I can afford to buy the business. And if I could afford to buy the business, I wouldn't be working for them. So then I went to work for West End Brewery, that was a large corporation, but not that large, close enough to the home office. And I analyzed that a lot. I was offered 16 jobs selling cars after I quit, because I quit when Ed died. Ed Maxwell died, the Ford dealer died. And I said, no way am I going to go back selling cars again. I'm smarter than that. Because I looked around at a lot of the guys that worked with me, and they jumped from dealership to dealership year after year after year. Some of those guys that sold cars with me are still selling cars. They sold cars. Some of them have died since then, and they sold cars up until the day they died, and they still had nothing. You know, and you got to look at the handwritings on the wall. When I went to work for the brewery, I looked at my boss. At first, I realized that it was the best job I was offered, and that was amazing the day that I went to work there, because I had gone up to Griffiths Air Force Base and tried the test to become a key punch operator. I decided that government job was going to be it. Man, that's where the security was. I didn't realize if people didn't pay their taxes, man, they didn't have no money to work with. It was only what they could steal from the people they could afford to give them a job. So I took the test, and Bertie took the test the same day. Guess what? She passed it. I didn't. That gives you a lot of pride. Because I was unemployed about 2 months. I said, I'm going to make one stab at the next job. I'm going to take my time. I'm going to pick the job. I'll take the money that I've got in the bank, a little bit of money, and if I have to spend it all looking for the next job, it's going to be where I'm going to spend the rest of my life. Now, went to work for that brewery. The same day that I got the offer for the job for the brewery, I'd taken the test at Griffiths Air Force Base, I'd taken the test to be a mailman, and I'd taken the test to work at West End Brewery. They decided between me and another guy primarily due to the fact that, number one, I didn't drink. Number two, that his wife had a good job, and there was no security that he would stay no matter what they did, due to the fact that he had enough independence, he wasn't that much in debt, didn't have any kids, so he didn't really need the job. So they said, we won't get an number one worker. A guy like Dexter will have over the barrel. Now, I found that out later after I went to work when I rose up to where I was assistant manager of that branch. And I was working with the boss on going through applications. But I looked at my boss, and he had big red nose, cheeks, big red cheeks, and a beer gut. And I said, that's my future at the brewery. And Elkie, or next thing to it. So vital that you look around and see that. And when I was shown the Amway plan, I was ready. I looked at the plan with an open mind, and those circles don't lie. I didn't understand everything totally, but I understood enough to know that here was my dream come true. I could have a business of my own. I had the cash in my pocket to get in. That I could do it part-time. I didn't have to worry about giving up my job and, worry about feeding the kids or how we were going to make it until we made it. And I set a goal. I said, I'm going to work 5, 6, 7 nights a week. I'm going to work every spare minute that I'm not working on my job to build this business. I looked and I said, I'm working for somebody else 40, 50, 60, 70, 80 hours a week. Whatever the requirement is, I'm on call 24 hours a day. I'm working for somebody else to help him build his business so he can give me some crumbs off his table for existence. I want to be free. So I said, I'm going to do it. Why not build my business 2 or 3 hours a night for 1 year and never worry about making 5 cents? I didn't care if I made 5 cents the first year. It didn't make any difference. I said, I'm going to keep my tank filled with gas, and every free minute that I got, I'm going to go talk to somebody, because I'd worked in that Jewish clothing store for 3 years. I'd worked for Sears Roebuck for 3 years. I'd sold cars for 3 years. I worked for West End Brewery for 3 years. I said, man, if I can't try for the first year the Amway business without worrying about making a cent, I got to be stupid. This is my business. And at the end of a year, I'm going to look at where I'm at, and if I've made any movement forward, I'm going to do it the rest of my life. I didn't say if I made direct. Now, I set 2 dumb goals, and they were stupid goals. They didn't even fit in. Shows how much I understood the plan. But it doesn't make any difference how stupid your goals are. I set number 1 goal that I would like to be making $1,000 a month at the end of a year. Hell, I was making $95 a week, and I was thought about it, a wild, crazy, nutty thing of making $1,000 a month. My second goal that went along with that was I wanted to break 10 directs in that first year. Now, those things are so far apart it ain't even funny. The first month in the business, we had to go on warehouse because nobody upline had any products. We used to have to drive to Worcester, Mass. to get the products. Okay? That's where the warehouse was. And we'd go down and get the products. I take every cent that we had, and I went and borrowed $1,000 to put in stock. Went down and got products. Didn't have any orders yet even. Started building an organization. Everybody was laughing at me, but a few got in. You know, Soap Suds kid, dumb Dex, he's out shining shoes. You name it, they said it. Didn't make any difference to me. I was showing them something that was going to change my life. I remember I went and talked to a kid I went to school with. Let's just say his name was Jim. That's what his first name was. Talked to him, I showed him the plan. You know what he said to me? Dexter, do you think you could get me your job at the brewery? I said, you don't understand. I got something better. He said, I don't want to do that. I think the brewery job's better. I said, I'm looking at both things. This is better. He said, no, the brewery job's better. You know what? He ended up with a brewery job. He took the job that I used to have. Now, to me, that is stupid. You know, you think about it. If there's anybody that knew the difference between the two jobs, it was me. I had the job at the brewery, and I was going to have my own business. I was looking for freedom. And I had a main underlining goal, see. My mom made a bad mistake when I was a young kid. She told me something maybe she didn't tell the other kids. I must have heard it 100 times, but she didn't tell the other kids it. She couldn't have. Otherwise, they wouldn't have jobs today. Because I had this thing that haunted me, because she told me just what my dad's mom told her. And that is, Yager means you can't work for anybody else. You're not happy unless you got your own business. And I had that in the back of my mind. I got to have my own business. I got to have my own business. I got to have my own business. So I was willing, if I was going to make $95 a week to be full-time at Amway, because at least I didn't have to worry about somebody else tying my stomach up in knots every day, telling me what to do, what time to get up in the morning. I didn't mind working hard. But I hated somebody owning me and making the decisions about my life for the rest of my life. So I saw a dream come true in Amway. People said to me, well, look how hard you're working building this thing. It ain't no harder than when I'm working on a job, and this is for me. I'm going to build it so someday I don't ever have to work. And it's amazing, the dumb remarks I'd get from different people. Some of them were friends of mine. Some of them were relatives. Some of them were neighbors. The funny thing is, I can go back to Rome, New York, and see a lot of those people on the streets today, and most of them are doing exactly what they were doing. And inflation is hurting them so bad, some of them are still living in the same houses they were living in then. Some of them are almost driving the same cars they were driving then. Now, my own personal car at that time was a 55 Ford rotted-out station wagon. You know? I went and showed the plan to people from all walks of life. Some guys had brand new Chryslers or new Cadillacs, and I'd go show them the plan. But I learned early in the business, the more money a guy made, the more he listened. The less he made, the more he talked. You understand that? And I learned some things along the line. It's amazing. I'd have people come up and they'd say, well, I make $25,000 a year. And I'd have people come up to me and they'd get sponsored, and they'd go try to talk to a guy, and they'd say, well, he makes $25,000 a year. And I looked at most of those guys who were supposed to be making $25,000 a year back when I was making $95 a week, and I said, they ain't living any better than me. They must be poor managers. No, they weren't poor managers, they were good liars. Those same guys come to me at meetings and they say, I make $50,000, I make $100,000 a year. Well, they don't make more than me today. I look at them and I say, I remember when I used to think that's a lot of money. Now, no matter what they say, I normally say, I wish I'd get my income tax down to that. You know, what's really exciting about this business is to look and see where you came from, to know where you're at, and to know you still haven't arrived. Because Bertie told you we started in the business in the alley, and I mentioned the fact many, many times. I'll never forget the second month in business. Bertie was excited. She wanted us in. She came home that night. She saw me on the wind-up of the plan getting excited. And she almost got scared. And I think she was scared for a couple months. Because when the guy showed me the plan, he says, what do you think? The worst thing he could ever say. Because most people weren't qualified to think because they don't understand it. I understood enough to say, I'm in. What do we do next? He said, well, I have to get your kit, and I have to, and he didn't have any answers. I guess he didn't think, he wasn't prepared. He didn't even say, wasn't able to say, look, order week is next Thursday, and I'll get you the kit, or, you need a meeting, or anything else. And I was so excited. I said, where are you going now? He said, well, I want to go talk to another guy. I said, let me go with you. I mean, I was excited. I want to do something, man. I was so excited that I had to talk to somebody. So immediately the next day I was talking to everybody. And I think the first month in business, I went out and I sponsored a guy that worked at the Victory Chain, one of my accounts at the brewery, the Victory Chain in Utica, New York. Showed him the program. He didn't have enough guts to stick with it. But meanwhile, he was excited for about 30 days, and he talked to somebody else who happened to be a kid I went to school with that was a salesman for a rep for another company. And that guy talked to a rep for another company, Leggett & Meyer salesman, a guy I didn't even know. But over the next couple months, he got in, got excited, and we became very close friends. And I remember the second month in business, this guy would go to a lot of meetings with me. We'd talk here, we'd get excited, we'd talk to different people. Doing a lot of things wrong, we didn't know what to do right. But I remember second month in business, I was coming home from a meeting probably 3 o'clock in the morning one night, and I was standing in the house talking to this guy, and Bertie come in, and I was talking about, man, making $1,000 a month. I'll never forget Bertie coming in and saying, let's not blow it too far out of proportion. Well, eventually that guy quit. But the funny thing about it, just standing behind stage just now, he just come walking in and said, hey, I want to talk to you a couple minutes. Okay? And the neat part about the Amway business is through the years you build relationships. The first guy, number 1 month that I showed the plan to, the first guy I thought of was my best man. When Bertie and I got married. And John and Betty are over here someplace now. They just got in the last year, and within the next few months they're going to be direct distributors. And at the same point, when we got into business, there was another couple that were already in the business. They'd never really been shown the plan or anything. They were just didn't understand what they were in. They got caught up by the excitement, and they were just selling some products. And eventually, they quit the business because they didn't understand. I remember they'd come up when their sponsor had quit. They'd come down and got some products from us, and we were all confused, didn't know what we were doing. And eventually, they quit. And then a couple years ago, when we went back to our class reunion, we talked to them about the business, and we just started talking to them. Next thing we got talking about the business. What else did we talk about? Except for life itself, and life is the business. Next thing we led to the business, and next thing you know, we got them sponsored. And of course, Sal and Susie Comito over here someplace, they just made direct last month, okay, from Rome, New York. I think that's important to understand, is don't ever give up on anybody. 16 years after we got started, we sponsored 2 people, one that was in the business when we got in, the other one that was one of the first ones we showed it to. But see, one vital thing is that you go on and succeed in spite of everything else, so that you show them that you know what you're talking about. Some people say over and over and over and over and over and over again, boy, if I could sponsor this guy, it'd change my whole business. Well, if you can't sponsor him at this point, go sponsor somebody else and somebody else and somebody else, and then eventually you'll get him if he's any good. You understand that? That's something that's so vital. Bertie and I got in the business, we had the dream to make $1,000 a month. We leveled off after about a year. You know why? We were beyond what we believed we could make. Second month in business, we cleared $1,515.32 part-time. 10 weeks after I was in the business, I quit my job. Along the line in the business, though, I didn't have any help. I was doing all by myself. Didn't have my sponsor running out and doing all kinds of meetings for me. I learned the plan, was doing it myself. I wasn't told what to do right and what to do wrong. I was just out there doing it, doing something. Through the years, we built a pattern of success. After we were in business 3 years, I got my first positive thinking book. After 3 years in the business, I found my first positive thinking book. That changed my life. That changed my life. Little things along the line. I remember there were times when people would criticize something that I'd say. And I'd think about it. Are they right or are they wrong? And if they were right, I'd change it. And I changed a lot of things in my personality. But I never changed my drive. I never changed my commitment. I said, I want the best for my wife and kids. I got a responsibility to them. You know, as we built the business, we'd had people laugh at us, put us down, ridicule us, you name it. But we made that commitment. We made that decision. I said, I don't care if I talk to 1,000 people. Man, if I find 10 that really want this thing, I'll be there. Well, today we got 19 personally sponsored directors, thousands of directs in our total organization, thousands of directs in our total organization. We don't know how many. When we first got in the business, it's amazing. Some guy that played baseball, you know, on a local team, well, he was too good. He was a baseball star. He was a baseball star when he was in high school. You know, today you look around and there's so many stars from different walks of life in our business, it's not funny. When we got in the business, some guy'd say, well, I've got 2 years in college, man. I mean, like he was better than all of us, and we didn't know what we were talking about. Today in our group, we've got college professors, we got doctors, we got ministers, we got lawyers. You know, we end up with some of the best in every area because they understand that in Amway it's the best of the best. It's the best of the best. When we got into business, there were a lot of small thinkers that were shooting us down. And some of them said, well, you'll never be anything as long as you're in Amway. Well, if you followed their record, they didn't know what anything was. I had people put me down because I didn't have any education. Today I sat on 2 college boards. You know, they set me down. I had guys who were bankers come to meetings and they'll say, well, you don't understand business. Today I own a bank. You know, I hire guys like the guys that laughed at me. Okay? I realized they did not own the bank. It's like at our bank, I remember the first few board meetings, the president of our bank, you know, was telling us that we didn't know anything about banking. And the second president we had told us the same thing. And then we moved on to the third one. Those guys all ended up looking for jobs. I said, if you're so darn smart, how come we own the bank? You understand that? Why don't you go out and buy your own bank? Well, today, we own that bank. We own the largest convention travel agency in the country. We own, a couple of us just went downhill, and my attorney and I just bought the Miami Racket Club. That's a nice place on the ocean, Miami Beach. You know, 150 nice rooms, 20 nice suites. A little place to get away to. Got our own restaurant. You know, all those little things. I own more businesses than I can tell you about. I remember talking to real estate people, and they'd say, well, if you get involved in real estate, I've seen so many guys go broke in real estate, it ain't funny. And we've got one of our directs in depth happens to be one of the top commercial real estate people in the country. And I just give them money and let them invest it. And I happen to own a lot of real estate. I own apartments. I own, you know, there's 3 pieces of land that I own right now that they're in the process of developing into shopping centers, and I own a good chunk of 3 shopping centers. And, you know, I own all kinds of businesses today. I sit on the bank, and I look at all kinds of businesses. I look at people that come for loans. I look at their financial statements and everything. I sit with some of the top financial people in America. Today, I'm on the board of directors of Amway. Today, I'm on the board, a school board. Happened to be a school we founded. You know, I move in a lot of circles. I remember when we first got in this business, I'd have some people, well, this guy is an alderman, okay, in this small town. He's big wheel, too good for Amway. I see these guys that were too good to associate with Amway. I was out at a meeting in Texas, a national affairs briefing. Some of the richest and most powerful men in America were there. Standing next to me at one time in a particular reception line was Bunker Hunt, some other people of his caliber. And I heard a voice say, "Hey, Dexter, come over here." And I looked, and it was Jesse Helms, senator from North Carolina. Before I got into business, Jesse didn't know who I was. I can call Jesse's office. I got his unlisted number. I can call Washington and talk to my congressman, and I don't have to say, "This is Dexter Yager." I say, "Jim, there, this is Dexter." They don't say Dexter who, they know who. It's nice to be at a first-name basis. You know, I got a little pin here on my lapel. Represents the fact that in January, when the new president's at the inauguration, that's my invitation. I'll be there as a personal friend and a personal guest of the new president of the United States. Now, I wouldn't I want to tell you, when I came in this country, when I was born, when I was brought up in this country, I wasn't that smart. But the longer you live, the wiser you should get. And you know, the more you travel, the more you should get smarter. And all you got to do is go to some of these foreign countries. You go to Germany as a foreigner, you know what it costs you to get a driver's license? You go there to live as an American, you're going to pay $1,000 to get a driver's license. You want to go fishing? You got to go to fishing class for 2 weeks. That's right. We have rights that protect people here. But the more that we follow other countries that are going down the tube, the more we're headed in that direction. And I'm sick and tired of politicians that are running around finding out how losers lose and bring it back to teach us, or reading theories that have already been proven wrong and legislating them in this country. And I think the whole country stood up in this last election to say the same thing. And it's so vital we understand, because we're at a point in this country where it's either up or down. It's up or down. And I think that you and I are the hope and the belief and the dream of this country. We look and see all the things that have happened through the years, over and over and over and over again. And we're at crisis point. And in several of the foreign languages, if you know what the word crisis means, when it's translated, it means opportunity. And we're at a point of the greatest opportunity that we've ever had in our life. This is the area where some people are going to get hurt financially, and some people are going to become millionaires and billionaires. And it's your choice as to which group you join. And it's very important that you understand, the richer you get, the more you can help people. Pat Boone invited me to a dinner with some of the top people in America, top entertainers, top legislators, and everything else last summer. Invited to the White House twice as guests of the President and the First Lady. A lot of people be impressed. I wasn't impressed. I knew it was my money that was helping pay for that White House. I knew it was my money paying his salary. And I knew some of the things that were being passed weren't helping my country. And I think that's something that people have to come to a point of what's best for everybody. And there's only one system that's best for everybody, and that's to give producers an opportunity to produce and continue to produce, and don't steal from them to give it to non-producers. There's only two groups of people in America, the producers and the non-producers. And don't ever kid yourself. The government is not a producer. It's a non-producer. It has nothing to give. It can only take. The only thing it can give is part of what it takes. And it costs so much to take and give that by the time the money runs through, there ain't much left. It's sort of like a horse eating hay. It don't come out much. And that's what they've done with our economy. If you want to look at it, you've seen progressive inflation in the last few years. You can't have an instant healing of that, but you need a change to change it. And I believe, to get as many conservatives in office as it took and were put in office, it took a whole lot of people that had been voting Democrat for years to be sick and tired, because it takes 1/3 of the Democratic votes to get somebody a Republican in as president. And I believe that the newspapers and everything kept talking about this undecided vote. I think it's sort of like the day after election. I pulled into a little town in North Carolina at a gas station, and I asked this guy, I said, well, what you think of the election? Well, I'll tell you the truth. I'm 66 years old. He says, all my life I've been a Democrat, and I'll be a Democrat till the day I die. He said, but this year I voted straight Republican. A man totally committed to his beliefs, but he could see that the people he was electing weren't standing for his belief. That's something important to understand. That's not a political situation. It shows you that we're in a changing of the times. We're on the threshold. People say, well, what's that got to do with Amway? When people's attitudes change like that, they're ready for something else to happen. Some of those people you talked to last week, last month, last year about this business are thinking different. A lot of them are hurting financially. That's one reason why. You start squeezing a guy's pocketbook too much, and he starts saying, ouch, and he starts having to do things maybe that he wasn't willing to do before. Some people wake up. But I believe, as you looked at all those undecided votes, you had a lot of people that had already decided. They were voting for the party that they weren't a member of, and they just didn't want to be ridiculed. They'd made the decision months ago. They'd made the decision, they'd made the stand. But they were afraid to tell anybody because they didn't want to be ridiculed. And isn't that something? I'm glad they went to the polls and made a commitment under stands. And I'm glad that those booths, they got a curtain over them, because I don't want anybody to have to worry about, how they vote and if they're going to get out there and get ridiculed or get shot or something else. That's a freedom we have in America, to go to an election, close that booth, and we don't even have to let our maid in if we don't want. And that a husband and wife can go, and I've heard a lot of couples throughout the years say, well, we vote differently, we can't sue each other, but at least they vote. Because I want to tell you something, it's so vital that we never, ever think our vote don't count. Because I believe in the administration that's in it now. And if it doesn't turn out the way I want 4 years from now, I'm not stupid enough to let my pride hang me up on what I did in the past. And there's where a lot of people get messed up. They get so hung up on something that they don't understand when things are changing or the times are changing or what has to be done. You progress day at day. It's no different. When I first got in this business, I shot for $1,000 a month. I couldn't exist on $1,000 a week today. I couldn't hardly exist on $1,000 a day. It's different lifestyle. Today our life is a lot different. But only in America can we do this. Today, I don't drive a beat-up old 55 Ford station wagon anymore. I got my choice of 30 vehicles. I can go at it and jump in my Rolls Royce, or I can jump in my other Rolls Royce, or I can jump in Birdie's 450 SL, or I can jump in one of my Cadillac limousines, or I can jump in my Blazer, or I can jump in my El Camino, or I can jump in my Chevy van, or I can jump in one of my antique cars, or I can get in my custom coach, or I can drive one of my pickup truck, or I can drive one of so many other vehicles that I have. I can't even keep track half the time of all the vehicles that I got. And I keep adding more. Just ordered a new limousine the other day. Just keep on keeping on. I remember back when I first got in this business, we lived in that little house in the alley. Today, we own 10, 12 different homes. We have a lot of real estate holdings. Our home today is 11,000 square feet. It's got 7, 8 bedrooms. It's got 6 bathrooms, I think. Maybe it's 7, I forget. Don't make any difference. I don't use them all at the same time. And 4 family rooms, 1,500 square feet master suite, 6 fireplaces. You know, each one of our kids have their own bedroom. We sat on 4 acres of land. There's 17-car garage out to my farm. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 farms, I think. I can't keep track of everything. See, one farm is 5.6 acres. Another one's 56 acres. Another farm is, 139 acres. Another one down the road is 390 acres. All prime real estate. Just bought a piece of land in town with a building I'm going to convert to an office building. I'm in the process of getting bids for a new office building of my own. You know, you're able to do all these things and more. I can't keep track of all I'm doing. You know, I have a lot of people say, well, how do you keep track of everything? I don't know. I just keep doing it, man. You know, just keep moving. Whatever the mind can conceive and believe it can achieve. Sometimes I look and I say, it's hard for me to believe that I'm doing all this, and I'm doing more and more. We just bought an office building in Columbus, Ohio. Let's see, what is that, a couple $1 million? But I haven't even seen it yet. I just saw it from the outside. My realtor went in and says, it's good buy. So let's buy it. So several of us guys in Amway went out and bought it. You know, we just started a little restaurant chain. You know, some of the guys in Amway said, hey, we had a guy that was in the restaurant business. He said, hey, right, we can really get this thing going. I said, fine, just as long as we don't have to spend any time. So Bill Britt and a few of us guys down held, and we said, okay, go ahead and do it. You know, we just want to financially back it and own it. You know, you plan it. Okay? So he went ahead and did it. So they're going to call the chain Dexter's. You know, it's if it makes it, great. If it doesn't, who cares? You know, it's only money. You know? Because our money is made in this. But of all the businesses that we got, you know, I end up sitting on a board of directors that one day a month, we manage probably 75%, and then I spend maybe another day a month talking with a couple other people to handle the rest of my businesses. But I'm able to do meetings in this business night after night after night. Now, let me tell you, you'll have people that maybe think they got a business because they work here or they work there. Chances are that whatever they do, there's somebody in our business that is more successful in that area. That's something very, very vital to realize. I have to laugh when I see people that they say, well, I'm into real estate heavy. And I look at my commercial real estate broker in Charlotte who's really into it heavy. You know, he's a big developer. And he called me the other night. He was excited, man. He was turned on. He just broke his second direct. And he says, man, I can't wait till the only real estate that I deal with is your and my holdings, and it's part-time, so I can get rid of that dumb office and them secretaries and all that other junk and all that investment and all those headaches and live first class. I can be free. And when I look at guys like a good friend of mine that's a partner of mine in several different enterprises, guy that when he signed up, the day he signed up was worth $550 million. And he's on his way to breaking his second direct now. And he says, this is the most exciting thing I've ever done in my life. And I got to look at guys like Clint Eastwood that just recently got into business. And you know, last year at Free Enterprise Day, I had a guy say, I'd like to come play. I'd like to, you know, entertain at Free Enterprise Day. I said, well, you got to be a director, be on the stage. He said, well, I'm offering my services now. I said, you got to be a direct. And that's Whispering Bill Anderson, country western star. You know, and there's more and more people like that coming into business all the time. Bertie and I were a little while back. I got to get back with Jeannie C. Rowley. Promised her I'd get with her. We just meet all these people, and we see them. You know, it's like, well, I was in Rome the other day, and I got to make a call back. Got a call from Pat Boone. Pat wants me to give him a call back home. First chance I get in the next couple of days, I'm going to give him a call back home. But just over and over and over, we get calls from people from every walk of life. And I have to stop and think, what about some of those kids I grew up with, some of those relatives, some of those friends of mine in Rome, and where are they to laugh? And where are some of these other people to see? We see people in big positions in the Christian movement, like Jim Baker's in my group. Spurlow Spur, you ever hear of the Spurlows? They're in our group. Guys like some of the top evangelists across America, can't even keep track of them in our group. And you look at people laugh at Amway, see so many people laugh at Amway, and maybe they believe that somebody like Jerry Falwell is the guy they should listen to. And I like Jerry, and Rich DeVos sits on his board. Or a guy like Robert Schuller, Rich DeVos sits on his board of directors. You know, you look, and people in Amway positions are in high positions. And they're accepted and backed by the leadership because they're the top leaders in the world. We've got college professors at some of the greatest colleges in America today, and college deans and college presidents that are directs in our group. One of the top surgeons in America today is direct in our group. We got guys in the Pentagon. We got guys in the White House. When I was at the White House last time, the president had a bunch of Secret Service men around him like he does all the time. They were sort of like hiding in the shadows, but I saw them there. After my meeting with the president, he left the room. When the Secret Service men come up, he says, "You're Dexter, aren't you?" I said, "Yeah." He says, "I'm in your group." When I was being cleared by the Secret Service going in the gate, two guys were checking me out completely, to make sure my name was down to come in, and I had an appointment and a schedule and everything. Another Secret Service man come up and said, "Can I get your autograph?" Most of the stars in America today, we have the chance to be with them. Clint Eastwood's director now, a guy named John Quaid. John used to play the bad guy in all his movies. Just recently got in a group. We were sitting down talking at a rally. Believes in the business. I can't keep track of all the people. You can look in the baseball field, and you got guys like Bob Boland, who was nominated last year as to the Baseball Hall of Fame. Diamond direct distributor. Guys, top hockey players, top basketball players, top football players. You look at guys like Dave Taylor, just quit the Baltimore Colts, go full-time Amway last year, made diamond. I was with Dr. Jim Martin not too long ago that just gave up his veterinarian practice. One time he had, I think it was 3 hospitals, and he's full-time Amway. Sent in his announcement of his retirement to all his friends and all of his people because he was retiring from his own business into a business of freedom. You look at these people that are successful in other people's eyes, and are coming into this business left and right. Bertie and I are able to travel around the world. We're going to have a nice Christmas with our kids. The day after Christmas, we run down to Puerto Rico to spend some time with some of our friends. Then we're going to spend some time in our place in Florida. Be nice staying in your own hotel. We're able to do these things. Someday we'll probably own our own airlines. We want you to join with us. See, everything that we got, you can have too. That's the neat part about it. Everything that we got, we're offering you. But the thing you got to do is you got to get over your stinking thinking, and you got to get onto your dreams. And you got to get away from your friends that are stinking thinkers. You either going to be around the positive or you're going to be around the negative. You've got to fill yourself with positive. You've got to believe, because I believe in you. And if everybody in this room will believe as much in themselves as I believe in you, where we are is nowhere in comparison with where you're going to be. Whatever we may have, whatever friends, whatever connections, is nothing in comparison with what you can do. We sponsor people like Doug Weed. Fantastic guy. I remember Doug, when he got into business, he said, "Well, Dexter, I only want to do 2 things. I want to preach and write books. But I'll get into business because I'm your friend, and I just want to be your friend." And I was with Doug last week, and Doug says, "I'm going to be Emerald this year. I'm going to be Emerald this year." And he said, "Man," he says, "I got so many books, so many people want me to write. I got offers to write better books than what I've ever written in my whole life." He said, "I ain't got time." He said, "I got more churches that want me to come speak than what I've ever spoke to." He says, but my greatest witness is drawing circles. He said, that's where it's at. He says, that's where God wants me to be. And I see guys he sponsored like Mac Evans that tell you exactly the same thing. Top preachers in America. Top people in every walk of life. It's so vital to understand what you got in your hands. I can't explain it to you in one night. I can't explain it to you in 1 week. We're going to have a leadership tomorrow where we can talk some more tomorrow afternoon. We're going to have a Sunday service when some of the people are going to share. You'll get some more of the feelings. But you know, the greatest thing in the world is not having all the nice homes, having the freedom to have a full-time driver so that you can go where you want. The freedom is to know this is what you're offering to your friends. When people say to me, boy, I don't want to take advantage of my friends, I say, man, I sure am glad that some guy took advantage of me. He got my few bucks, and look what I got in return. I couldn't have had this any other way. And it's just starting. And I don't care what you want to do with life. Everybody has got some wild, fantastic dream. Bring it to the surface. Bring it to the surface. I remember back when we were kids, we were in high school, the biggest star in the countries were Pat Boone, Johnny Cash, and Elvis Presley. And they were the untouchables. They were the guys that nobody could get near. They were the stars. And you know, those three guys have continued to be stars. But you know, we've spent a lot of time with Pat and Shirley. Close friends now. We've met Johnny Cash. And Bertie always wanted to meet Elvis, but he died too soon. Because, you know, we had a friend of ours, we had a dinner appointment set up to spend New Year's Eve with Elvis that year. Because a good friend of mine happened to be a good friend of his. And anything you want, if you build your business big enough, you either have that guy in your group, or you'll have somebody that's a close friend of his in your group. And you'll have all the credibility that you ever wanted. And some of the people that are laughing at you now, eventually their boss will get it in your group. You make your decision tonight that this is going to be the worst year you've ever had in your life. From here on in, it's going to get better. And I want to tell you, I don't care how good my income gets. I know that from here on in, it'll never get any worse than it was this year. That's right. It'll never get any worse than what it was this year. In fact, this is the worst that it's ever going to be from here on in. Now, you can't say that on a job. But every year I've had that problem. That the year before was worse than this year. And next year I have that problem again. You know, we got a few of our little checks in for October. And, you know what's neat about it? I haven't even had to cash checks yet. And no profit sharing ain't in yet. That comes later. Big money's still coming. And know that every year, every month, that you make more than most of your friends that will ever laugh at you make in a year. And the best is yet to come. Understand that. People look at the fact, they'll say, it's too late. It ain't started yet. And I want to tell you, we're still sponsoring our friends. The only problem that we have today is we don't have a money shortage. We have a time shortage. I got lists of people that want to get sponsored. Friends of mine. People in high positions that I don't even have time to go see them. Today, when I first started sponsoring the business, I would sponsor anybody. As long as they warmed up to body temperature and breathing, I'd let them in. Find out if they were alive later. But you know, today I handpick everybody. The only people I sponsor are people that I want as friends or People say to me, what are you doing back in Rome, New York? Because some of my old friends are back there, and I want to see them make it. I want them to have the same opportunity. And I want to tell you what's nice is not to worry about how much money you're going to make on another direct by breaking that guy, but be concerned more about how much money he's going to make because you shared the plan with him. That's the key to this business, is giving your love and your caring and sharing to somebody else. And people say, well, is the opportunity the same now as it was before? I'm still out there doing it, getting new people in. My son Doyle had $600 last month. If there was something better, I sure would have had him doing it. Today, right now, the greatest business opportunity in the world, with all my money, with all the connections, with everything else that I've got, the greatest opportunity that I can give to my kids is Amway. Doyle? Doyle, who's 21, hit 600 last month. I've been so busy I haven't even had a chance to do his first meeting yet. Last week I was out. My daughter April, who's 20, got engaged a few months ago. And we went out to be with her husband, her future husband, who's in his last year of college, studying to be a minister. And we did a meeting one evening, a meeting the next afternoon. He wants to know when I'm coming back to do his next meeting to get him rolling. Now, you tell me, if it was too late for Amway, why would I be so excited and my kids so excited about them getting in? If there's anybody that knows whether it's too late or not, it's me, not the guy that ain't in. The opportunity is better today. The opportunity is better today than what it's ever been, because when people come in, they've got a proven pattern to follow, number one. Number two, they got leaders that are willing to lead them. Number three, when we got in, there were only 34 products in the line. Today, with the catalog and everything else we got, there's thousands of products, which mean you can make it that much faster. Number four, Amway ain't on trial no more. The only thing that's on trial is the guy that gets in or looks at it. You're on trial as to whether you're smart enough to see an opportunity, and then you're on trial whether you got enough guts to go do it. That's where it's at. Success. I look at the things that I dreamt about when I got into business. When we first got into business, I dreamt someday when I saw that plan, I saw that board of directors drawn out, I said, someday I'm going to be on it. Well, I'm serving my second term. Two of my downline directs been on that board. One of them serving with me this year. One of them last term was last year. All my friends are on that board, every one of those people. One of my friends. The unique part about Amway is that no matter how big it gets, if you go out and grow and build, you don't have to be a member of Rich DeVos's or Jay Van Andel's family to serve on that board. You have that opportunity if you decide to build your business big enough to be elected to that board by your fellow distributors. Because the day you sign an application, you join the Amway family of friends and people who love and people who care. And you're moving on into a different world than what you've ever seen before, into a new world and a new hope. Yes, today is the first day of the rest of your life. All things are possible to he who believes. If you'll get your belief up. If you'll get your self-image up. I believe you're a winner. I believe that you should have the closet in her bedroom filled with clothes. She wants designer clothes, great. I believe that every gal should have a little 450 SL Mercedes or a Cadillac or both. The difference between men and boys is the price of the toys. I believe you girls all deserve a maid and a cook. I believe that your kids should be able to go to private schools of your choice, that you ought to be able to travel in any country that you want to travel in. I believe that you ought to be a free person in a free world and not have to get up in the morning and go to work. I believe that you ought to be able to roll over instead of rolling out. I believe you ought to get up at the crack of noon if you choose. I believe that you ought to be confused all the time about what day of the week it is because you don't have a job to keep you straight. I believe that every man should be able to take his wife out to lunch no matter what time of the day he wants to do it, whether it's noon or 2 or 3 or 4. At whatever restaurant they want to go to, and at whatever part of the world they want to be in. I believe that you're right. And I believe that you owe it to yourself to do it. Today's the first day of the rest of your life. But as you fail in life, you develop failure habits. And as you succeed in life, you develop successful habits. You develop habits of saying, instead of dumb me, you learn to say, I'm a winner. And you learn to, anytime anybody puts you down, to smile and say they're stupid instead of fighting. Why argue with an idiot? Every now and then, somebody will say, how does it feel to be retired? Yeah, I've been retired so long, I'm almost retarded. If I was smart, I'd have a job. That's what all people told me, man. Smart guys got good jobs. If I want a job, I can just go to work for any of my corporations. I went to work for my bank for 2 weeks. Boy, I'll tell you, when we first bought that bank, I went to work for 2 weeks just to see how it was to have a job. I showed up bright and early at noon every day. Then I checked on all the employees and went to lunch. That's freedom. That's freedom. And I took a couple days off. Last year, they asked me to appear and be co-host of a TV show in Charlotte called Good Morning Carolina. And I looked at my schedule and said, when could I do it? I said, let me do it Thanksgiving week because I get Thanksgiving Day off. I want a day off that week, man. I couldn't believe that. I had to get up 9 o'clock every morning. You imagine having to get up 9 o'clock every morning? 9 o'clock every morning? Wow. I did it once for somebody else. I don't got to do that for me because I set my schedules when I'm best. And it ain't 9 o'clock in the morning. I always, when I had a job, said, hey, why not skip breakfast? I'd rather sleep in than have breakfast. And now, I don't eat breakfast unless it's at the other end of the day. I don't know what it means to have breakfast early in the morning. Early in the morning, 1 or 2 o'clock, yeah. But not 7 o'clock in the morning. Only time I ever see the sun come up is when I'm going down. I don't normally allow Bertie to go shopping anymore. She goes out buying. No sense in shopping, girls. Give up shopping for a while so you can go buying. How'd you gals like to be able to ask your husband for a couple $1,000 to go out and get a couple dresses or one dress? How'd you like to have an unnumbered selection of dresses? And then, when you get sick of them, turn them around and give them to somebody. And sometimes you look and you're giving. One day I gave 5 suits to my dad. He wears the same size that I wear. 5 that I hadn't ever even had the pants cuffed or the sleeves done or nothing else yet. I just bought them on, one point thought I liked them, and later on I decided I didn't like them. And I let them sit in the closet for a few months, and I said, here, Dad, I don't like them. How'd you like to be able to buy a 3,000 square foot home and say, Mom and Dad, I want you to live here? Huh? These are all things you can do. But you got to develop successful habits. Successful habits. Develop a little habit. You know what the heartbeat of Amway is? Your heart beats like this. The heartbeat of Amway is 5 and 6 nights a week. 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 I'm a winner, I'm a winner, I'm a winner, I'm a winner. Diamond, 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 diamond. 5 and 6 nights a week. 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 Diamond, me, diamond, diamond, me, diamond, me, diamond, me, diamond. Why not? Why not? Why not? Why shouldn't you be a diamond? Why shouldn't you? You deserve it. It's just a decision away. It's just a decision away. Come join our world. God bless you.